Hey, I'm Jeff the Junk Seller, and this presentation is going to be about the flea market that I just did again down in Buffalo Gap, Texas. I did that on January 16th, 17th, and 18th of 2026, and I was actually down there on the 13th. Didn't get out of there until the 19th, but I was able to do some shopping, and I made it to a town called Santa Ana. They've got it's about 50 miles from Buffalo Gap, and they've got a couple of really great antique shops there. I ended up buying two pieces of cast iron. I actually, the first one I got was Hearts and Stars. It was a Griswold number 18. I can't remember the model number. I think it's actually 929, but it's got the tall base, and I found it. It was in a shop that I've been in before, that I bought pretty well at before. And I found a tag topper for a friend of mine in Oklahoma, sent him pictures. He committed to it. He said, yeah, get that for me. And, I was making one more run through the store before I left, and I see this thing. It was right there. It had been right in front of me, and I just missed it. I talk about being in a funk lately, and it's continued. But anyway, they had $300 marked on it, and I go to the lady that's running the shop, and I ask her about the vendor, if they're firm on price, and she tells me that by policy she can give me 10% off, but then she charges me eight and a quarter percent tax, something like that. It ends up being that I paid $294 for a piece of cast iron. And I thought that the afterthought on that was that I had just really screwed up, because I could have bought a whole storage unit for that kind of price. But I think that it's about a $600 piece. And I took it out to Buffalo Gap. Unfortunately, it got me about as much negative attention as it did good attention. And I had a handful of guys that were working in concert to try to convince me that I had this overpriced, and I told him, hey, look, arguing's not gonna change my price. And I was offering it for $550, which I think is a bargain. And I put it on Facebook Marketplace as soon as I got it, and I've gotten a couple of responses from it. I put in there that it was open to trades, and so far everybody's wanting to make a trade on it. But it's one of those trophy pieces that I got goosebumps when I saw it, because I'd never seen one before. I didn't even know about it. But I was pretty happy to get that. And then I left there, and there was a piece of cast iron that I left behind because I'd spent so much money. I was afraid. I just was not comfortable spending more money. And it was a Griswold Dutch oven with a Griswold lid on it, and they had it priced at $65. And I looked at it, and I drove away, and it bothered me. I went back on Friday to pick it up. The market runs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but Friday and Saturday were so brutally cold. I didn't even really set up on Friday, and there was nobody showing up. So I took off. I told everybody that was around me, I said, hey, I'm going to go back to pick up this piece of cast iron that I should have bought the other day. And when I get in there, I examined it a little closer. Well, I can't even say that. I flipped it over, and in a decent light this time, and noticed that there was a crack. Even through the grunge, you could see that there was a crack in it. So I wasn't willing to pay that, but there was a store attendee that was on me when I was in there, and she wanted to know what I would pay for it. She contacted the seller, and I said, well, it's got a crack in it. I said I was going to buy it, but it's damaged, and I just can't pay that kind of money. I did wind up, she said, well, he wants to know what you're offering, and I offered $30 for it. I think the lid is a $75 lid. But I had some pretty good pieces of cast iron out at Buffalo Gap. One guy that is a cast iron dealer offered me maybe $100 offer on two pieces that I have priced at $150. And even though I have them priced at $150, I think they're bargain priced at that, and I just wasn't willing to go that far. And If he would have given me, if he would have made me an offer of 130, I probably would have sold those 2 skillets. But you just couldn't come to an agreement on price. But the sale, I really didn't sell anything on Saturday. I think my total was like $52 on Saturday. On Sunday, I did sell $153 worth of stuff. But one of it was a customer that was from Oklahoma City. In fact, I'm surprised that I didn't know her because she worked for a estate sale company up there. And I made a $115 sale to her and had to take a check on it because she didn't have cash and I couldn't do Venmo or Cash App because there is absolutely no signal for a T-Mobile customer out there when there's a crowd out there. Late in the evening, when everybody goes away, I can get a little bit of signal. I was able to play video game and do a little bit of light research, but for the most part, I can't. It's just impossible for me to get a signal when the sale goes on. But I really recommend this sale because it has grown a lot, even though the weather has been against me. Not only at this sale, but like the 3 or 4 prior to this sale. And I'm struggling a bit because of that. I'm going to have to turn in silver again. I can go and turn in $2,000 or $3,000 worth of silver so that I can lead into going to the Fredericksburg area and starting to test the market down there. But I really like the place. I think that they're putting in a pipeline. That pipeline that's supposed to take processed petroleum products to California. That is being built just south of Buffalo Gap. In fact, when you drive to go to Santa Ana, you go right past sites. When I go from Buffalo Gap to go to the campground there at Abilene State Park, I drive by where they've installed some of the pipe. It's huge, but they've got that going on. They got some solar farms that are being built up around the Abilene area, and they have that AI thing going in. And there's a lot of tech. There's a lot of different money. There's people from all over the place that go there. I also learned there's a place that I pass every time that I go from the flea market to Abilene State Park, and it's a place called Perini Ranch Steakhouse, and they even run kind of a B&B. They have guest quarters there where you can go there and hang out for a number of days just to enjoy the steak. They call it authentic cowboy cooking. I don't know what that means, but they say that everything is cooked over a mesquite fire, and it's kind of pricey. A lot of the meals are $50 to $100, and I think a burger, though, I think you can get a hamburger for like $20 there. But and they've got a living history museum there about the Texas frontier, buildings that they've relocated. I think about a dozen buildings from the 1875 to 1925, that period, and they've got this cute little museum that runs there. And the whole place, the whole environment, they've got these live oak trees that, and I hear about it. I used to hear people talk about the live oak trees, and they talk about it like it's some kind of mystical experience. They are really cool, and it puts me in the mind of Warrenton or Round Top, and it's $1 million or coming in close to $1 million an acre for land over there. But they got all these ancient live oak trees. In fact, they are all over the flea market there. The flea market is among a bunch of live oak trees. Just absolutely wonderful setting for a flea market, I think. But and it's growing, and more people are bringing antique stuff. I'm not going to be there again for a while, but when I was out there, I was thinking, with day trips being kind of a fad, kind of a trend, somebody could come out there and go to the flea market in the morning, go to the what are they calling it? The Buffalo Gap Historic Village in the afternoon, and then go to Preenie Steakhouse to either to get lunch or a bite for dinner. It makes for a pretty cool little trip. The scenery down there, I think is really really cool. Um, Even though I didn't do well at this market, I still think that it's a good place to go. And I was able to buy well this time. I made it to Coleman. A fella that sold me some postcards previously, I left some of them behind, and I finally made it back out there to get the rest of them, and they had all been sold. I waited too long, a couple of months, before I got back out there to see him. But it was an interesting trip. I didn't do any shopping in Abilene. I'd spent too much money, and I've been making too little money. I really wasn't supposed to have spent $294 on a piece of cast iron, but it was just it was a really really nice one. But I processed some other stuff. I found some stuff out of storage. I've been able to fluff up my inventory a little bit, and I'm trying to get it. I won't be going to Fredericksburg this weekend because the weather is going to be absolutely horrible. I think 9 degrees for the start on Sunday, and there's just no reason to go out there for a market. I need to hunker down up here, and I'll spend my time in my unit trying to sort things out. But Buffalo Gap was it was an interesting experience, and I think that if you haven't been there as a shopper or a vendor, it's worth a try. But that's all that I've got to say about this presentation. And if you've enjoyed this, then please give it a like. If you do, then please view some of my other material, and if you like that as well, then please subscribe. But thank you for viewing.